Hi, curious people. Today we're doing an experiment. A thought experiment. It's more like a decision matrix. So today's curiosity is, how does hand filing compare to using an efile machine or a nail drill? So I've created 6 criteria to help you decide if spending $200+ on an efile is actually worth the cost. So number 1, the cost. The obvious thing here is trying to decide if it's actually worth the money. You're going from a hand file, a regular nail file that costs about $1 or $2, to jumping to like a $200, $400 nail drill efile machine. And the answer really depends on the rest of this experiment and how often you do nails. So the average nail file costs about $1, and then the e-file costs about $170 plus the cost of bits, which are about $8 each. And if you upgrade to like professional nail files like I did, like Staleks, it will cost more than the average ones from the grocery store, since you do have to buy like a pack of 30 or 50 in a box. They do make small sets for about $3, and so here the winner is the hand file, and that is going to be the biggest criteria that people will take into consideration when they think about switching. Number 2, let's talk time. If you're actually inexperienced or not a nail tech, then it actually takes almost the same amount of time. So here the hand filing took about 2 minutes, and it was literally the same with the e-file. But of course, with experience or routine and practice, the e-file definitely wins. If you happen to use like a crappy e-file like the Melody Susie that I first started with, and it vibrates a lot and wobbles with the bit, then it's going to take you much longer because you're basically trying to wrestle with it as you use it on every single nail. So like the hand fatigue will increase, and it is just not worth your time. Number 3, efficiency. So hand filing is actually very tiring, and if you're doing 2 minutes per nail, that's at least 20 minutes. And on the other hand, a professional nail tech can remove old gel in about 5 minutes and then proceed to finish file to smooth out the bumps and prep the cuticles and so on. And for me, I've been doing gel for about like a year consistently, but like 2 years since I started, and it takes about 10 minutes on a good day. The efficiency for an e-file also depends on the sharpness of your bits that you're using, how old they are, and of course how sharp they are, and what kind of coarseness level you're working with, and how comfortable you are with the speed and all of that good stuff, and how dexterous you are when you control the bit. So again, as I said, if you're well practiced and you do this all the time, then you probably take only about 5 or 10 minutes. But if you're just starting out, it will take you much longer, probably like closer to 15-20 minutes like it would to hand file. Okay, now finally we can talk about skill required. So as you can tell, the e-file has a steep learning curve, but once you get the hang of it, you have a lot of practice with it, it's actually really nice and straightforward. I would not call it easy unless you've been working with it for like years and years, like 5-10 years. So for hand filing, the skill is quite low that is required, but there's still a specific technique that you want to use to maximize your efficiency. And it's quite easy to learn. It's just about like the way you hold the file and which direction you move the file to increase your efficiency. Number 5, precision. So the e-file definitely wins here, only if you have full control of the machine. So in many ways, a hand file is way more precise because the hand file doesn't move unless you move it. But for the e-file, it's a quickly spinning bit, and you're trying to control that with your hand. So the quality of the nail file also plays a role, and some might say like the nail file is not really precise because it is like long and bulky, so you can't really get to like the cuticles or the sidewalls really easily like the e-file with cuticle bits. Last but not least, number 6 is accidents, or like the prone to injury. I've actually never injured myself with a hand file, but I've definitely nicked myself several times using the e-file. And so again, the hand file here wins because you can't hurt yourself or the clients using a hand file, because if you properly like season the edge of the hand file, there's basically no risk of injury unless you're like using terrible technique and you're overfiling the nail bed, obviously. So we're not talking about that. I don't need to go into more detail about how dangerous and how much damage the e-file can do, but if you are well trained and you know the proper procedure, then it can be really safe and you can avoid accidents basically 99% of the time. Especially when you start out, you really need to use rounded top barrels or other bits that are called safety bits, and they don't have this sharp edge that you can like gouge yourself with. So that was 6 criteria to help you decide if buying an e-file for several $100s is actually worth the cost. Do you actually need to switch from using a hand file, or do you just need a little bit more practice and higher quality abrasive? And honestly, I'm just going to tell you, like, if you're just getting into gel and you're just starting to do nail extensions, I would just choose a high quality nail file like from Staleks and save yourself money for a year to eventually buy an e-file, because this year of working with the gel gives you time to perfect your cuticle prep and nail prep and decide if this hobby is what you really want to do seriously. You need to master the basics of filing with a hand file before you can move on to a machine, right? Just know your fundamentals and get your nail prep down first, and you could do really good nail prep with just a hand file. It's all about how well you know these techniques and principles of adhesion with your products. So here are some recommendations for the hand file. You really want to pick like quality premium abrasives. My personal favorite grit is 150 with thin padding for removal and like the length of the nail. 180 for final filing to like smooth out bumps and stuff, prep buffing, edge smoothing, things like that. Other people like nail techs usually prefer 100 grit, but I do feel like it's way too coarse and it's harder to file with. But if you get a buffer type of nail file, I recommend going with 100 grit. And they don't feel the same, obviously, or not obvious if you've never worked with it. So for e-files, there are actually several videos that I put out doing reviews. So I have one about Melody Susie that's just $20 that you can get off of Amazon. And I also have a professional one that is used by nail techs and highly recommended by people all over the world. And that's the Session Strong. And basically, in summary, you want to pick a professional e-file that actual nail techs use. So in this example, it would be the Session Strong for about $180. It is okay to shop on a budget, but please stay away from keyless chucks like the $20 nail drill by Melody Susie. You want to look for twist chuck models that will hold the bit in place perfectly centered. Otherwise, you will have the same issue that I did with the Melody Susie, and the bit will be like wobbling off center, and it's like full of vibrations, and you're just like struggling with this e-file all the time. I hope you consider these criteria when you go shopping for your first e-file or second e-file like I did. I have reviews and comparisons on the 2 best-selling e-files if you want to take a look. Let me know what you are curious about next, and I'll see you in the next curiosity. Bye!